I stood right there, knowing I should leave, but something in me never learned how. I felt it falling before it broke, like glass already in the air. You didn't say it all at once, but I could feel it there. Every word you spoke got lighter, like it didn't need to stay. And I kept pretending I didn't notice you slipping away. I told myself I'd be stronger, that I'd turn and walk in time. But every step I tried to take just fell back in line. And I stayed in the moment longer than I ever should have done, because leaving meant it was real, and I wasn't ready for none. So I froze in the middle of goodbye, like that would change the end. But silence doesn't save you, it only pretends. I couldn't step away even when I knew it hurt. I stayed inside the ending just to feel it worse. I couldn't turn my back like I was supposed to do, because letting go in motion felt like losing you. I couldn't step away, so I stood there in the rain, watching love turn into distance. I couldn't change. You started speaking in past tense, like I wasn't there anymore. And I heard every sentence before it hit the floor. I wanted to interrupt it, to say, don't let this go, but my voice stayed trapped inside me, like I already know that some endings don't ask permission, they just quietly begin. And you only notice fully when you're already in. I should've moved when I felt it, I should've trusted what I knew, but I stayed too long in the version where I still had you. Now I replay that still moment where I should've turned and run, but I stood there breaking slowly instead of becoming numb. I couldn't step away even when I knew it hurt. I stayed inside the ending just to feel it worse. I couldn't turn my back like I was supposed to do, because letting go in motion felt like losing you. I couldn't step away, so I stood there in the rain, watching love turn into distance. I couldn't change, and I think that's what haunts me. Not that you walked away, but that I stayed to witness every piece decay. I wasn't held there by you, I was held there by my fear of what comes after loving when nothing is near. And if I had one moment back, I'd still see the same scene, me standing too long in goodbye, trying to make it mean. I couldn't step away even when it was already gone. stood right there, knowing I should leave, but I couldn't step away from what was already free. I used to think it was all you, until I looked at me. I didn't change enough when I had the chance. Kept standing still while life kept moving past. I thought love alone would be enough. I didn't change enough to hold on to us. You asked for more from me in ways I couldn't hear. I thought being present was enough to keep you near. I stayed who I was while you tried to grow, and I didn't realize how far you'd go. I thought tomorrow would give me time, but change moves slower when you think you're fine. I see it clearer looking back now. There were things I should have faced. Somehow I didn't change enough, and I feel it now. There were bridges to build, I didn't know how. I kept holding on to who I had been. I didn't change enough to begin again. Begin again. I got comfortable inside what we knew, while you were becoming someone new. I thought you'd wait for me to catch up, but people grow tired when it's not enough. No single mistake, no one to blame, just missed opportunities to change. I wish I had listened when you spoke softly, before silence became the only thing between us. Maybe growth means admitting you're wrong, not carrying guilt for too long. I can't rewrite what happened then, but I can learn from where it ends. I didn't change enough, and it's clear to me now. I was holding on to comfort. I don't know how to see what was needed before it was gone. I didn't change enough for too long. I used to think it was all you, until I looked at me. You walked forward, and I stayed where the light still touched your shadow. I thought that meant I was strong, but I was just still. You didn't turn to ask me once if I was coming too. You just kept becoming distance, like it was nothing new. I felt the moment split in silence. One path became your name, the other stayed right under me, but never felt the same. I could've called out your direction, I could've broken free, but something in me stayed behind, too afraid to leave. And I watched you turn into a future I wasn't built to hold, while I stayed in the last second that never got replaying the reason I didn't run that day. But reasons don't sound honest when love slips away. I didn't follow you, even when my heart said go. I stayed inside the silence where I already know. I didn't follow you, and now I carry what remains. A life that learned your absence, like a permanent pain. I didn't follow you, and that's the truth I face. I lost you when you're leaving, but I lost me in that place. I try to tell myself I chose it like it was my decision, but fear has a quiet language that feels like intuition. I stood there watching footsteps fade into something new, while every part of me was screaming to run after you. But I didn't trust emotion, didn't trust what I could be, so I stayed behind in stillness where it felt safe to breathe. And now I live with that moment like a weight I never dropped. The moment I stopped chasing and let everything stop. And I wonder if you noticed, or if I disappeared too slow, like I wasn't worth the effort to even let you know. I didn't follow you, even when my heart said go. I stayed inside the silence where I already know. I didn't follow you, and now I carry what remains. A life that learned your absence, like a permanent pain. I didn't follow you, and that's the truth I face. I lost you when you're leaving, but I lost me in that place. And maybe love isn't about chasing, maybe it's about release. But I never got the timing right between you and me, because I didn't lose you suddenly. I lost you step by step while I was still deciding whether to forget. And now I see the difference between staying and being left. I stayed too long in hesitation, and you just left. I didn't follow you, and I still hear the choice. The silence I called safety, the fear I called my voice. I didn't follow you, and I live with what it means. You became the road ahead, I became what's in between. I didn't follow you, and now I understand. Some endings aren't spoken, they're just not held in hand. You walked forward, and I stayed where I still could. I didn't follow you, and I wish I would. Everything was changing except me. I stayed still in a world that kept learning how to leave. You moved like you understood it, like endings had a shape. But I was stuck translating silence I couldn't escape. Every step I tried to take forward felt like stepping back inside, like motion itself forgot me and paused my life. I watched you become direction while I became delay, And every time I thought I'd follow, I lost the way. So I stayed in hesitation, like it was all I knew, not realizing I'm moving was still a move. And I kept waiting for a signal, something to make it clear, but nothing ever came from me except fear. I didn't know how to move, so I stayed where I could break, watching life continue softly without my name. I didn't know how to move, so I became the space behind every moment I didn't choose in time. I didn't know how to move, and that's the truth I live. I didn't lose you in the leaving, I lost myself in this. People said just let it happen, like it was easy to do, but letting go takes motion. I never learned from you. I replayed every direction like it might teach me how, but thinking isn't moving, and I know that now. I stayed in every, almost every, maybe every pause, like I could fix the ending without knowing what it was. And I started calling it patience, but it was really fear. Fear of choosing any future that didn't have you near. Because moving means deciding, and deciding means the end of every version of us. I still pretend I didn't know how to move, so I stayed where I could break, watching life continue softly without my name. I didn't know how to move, so I became the space behind every moment I didn't choose in time. I didn't know how to move, and that's the truth I live. I didn't lose you in the leaving, I lost myself in this. And maybe motion was the answer, but I froze at the start, because every direction forward felt like tearing apart. So I learned to stay suspended between now and before, not realizing stillness can hurt even more. And I think that's what I'm grieving, not you, not what we were, but the version of me who never learned to stir. I didn't know how to move, and now I understand. You don't need to walk away to lose your hand. I didn't know how to move, so I stayed inside the ache, a life that never started, because I never made. I didn't know how to move, and it's still in my mind. I wasn't left behind by you, I was left behind in time. Everything was changing except me, and I didn't know how to move, so I stayed where I couldn't be. You didn't ask me to stay, and I didn't ask myself to go. So I just existed between both, not moving either way. We didn't break in one direction, there was no final sound, just two people slowly fading while still standing on the ground. You moved like you were leaving, I stayed like I was not. And somewhere in that difference, we both forgot what we had got. I saw the distance growing, but I didn't name it fear. I called it just a phase while you disappeared near. And maybe that's the truth I missed. We didn't end with blame. We just stopped choosing each other in the same name. And I keep asking myself softly why I never walked away. But staying wasn't a choice, I just didn't go that day. I didn't leave either, I just stayed where we decayed, watching love turn into silence that neither of us made. I didn't leave either, I didn't stop it in time, I just let the ending happen without drawing a line. I didn't leave either, and that's the part that stays. We didn't fall apart loudly, we just faded both ways. You stopped reaching out first, I stopped trying to explain. And somewhere in that quiet space, we both accepted change. But acceptance isn't healing, it's just slower letting go. And I didn't notice I was empty until it started to show. I kept pretending normal, like nothing had been lost. But silence started costing me more than I thought. And I wonder if you felt it the same way I did too, or if I was just alone inside the ending of me and you. Because no one really left first, no one really stayed behind. We just drifted into distance without drawing lines. I didn't leave either, I just stayed where we decayed, watching love turn into silence that neither of us made. I didn't leave either, I didn't stop it in time, I just let the ending happen without drawing the line. I didn't leave either, and that's the part that stays. We didn't fall apart loudly, we just faded both ways. And maybe that's what hurts the most, not who left or who stayed, but that nothing ever ended, it just slowly changed. No goodbye, no breaking moment, no reason to defend, just two people becoming strangers who never said the end. And I think I could have saved us if I had tried to see that not leaving is still leaving when it's quietly. I didn't leave either, I just became the space where love stopped having meaning, but never left a trace. I didn't leave either, and now I understand. Sometimes no one walks away, but nothing holds your hand. I didn't leave either, and that's the truth, I know. We didn't end with goodbye, we just let go. You didn't ask me to stay, and I didn't ask myself to go. so I didn't leave either. And now I know. I told myself I was done, but I still kept pieces of you hidden in places I never checked. Like I was scared you'd disappear completely. I packed your name into silence, like it wouldn't echo back at me. I smiled in rooms full of people, but I was never really seen. I deleted our photos in waves, but kept one deep in my mind. The one where you weren't even looking, but I still called it mine. And I said I moved on, I swear I tried, but every I'm fine felt like a lie. Because I didn't burn the bridge completely, I just let it die halfway inside. Now I'm standing in the aftermath of choices I didn't fully make. Half of me let you go that night, the other half still aches. I didn't let go fully, I just loosened my grip and prayed that somehow you'd come back running. Like love doesn't fade that way. I didn't close the door behind you, I left it slightly open still. And now every night I'm haunted by a heart I didn't kill. I didn't let go fully, that's why I still feel this pain. Somewhere between goodbye and forever, you still live inside my name. I learned how to fake new beginnings, how to say I'm better now, but late at night I still remember how your voice used to sound. I dated distraction and distance, but they never learned your shape. No matter how many arms held me, they never filled your space. And I tried to rewrite my story, but your chapter won't erase. It's written in ink too familiar on every page I face. I thought time would make it easier, like forgetting was a skill, but time just taught me quite a ways to want what isn't real. I didn't let go fully, I just loosened my grip and prayed that somehow you'd come back running. Like love doesn't fade that way. I didn't close the door behind you, I left it slightly open still. And now every night I'm haunted by a heart I didn't kill. I didn't let go fully, that's why I still feel this pain. Somewhere between goodbye and forever, you still live inside my name. If I had screamed it louder, if I had cried it out in time, maybe you would have heard me, maybe you would have changed your mind. But I stayed too quiet, too careful, too afraid to lose you fast. So I held on to the version of us that never meant to last. And now I know the cruelest ending isn't love that falls apart. It's loving someone halfway with a whole and breaking heart. I didn't let go fully, and that's the reason I still break. Every memory feels like you. I never got to shake. I didn't close the door behind you, I kept it open like a scar. Now I'm standing in the doorway. that I can't forget. I told myself I was done, but I still kept pieces of you. And maybe that's why I never really lost you. Or maybe that's why I never healed it all. Life kept growing, I just didn't go with it. Everyone around me kept changing their direction, finding new beginnings, new connections. But I stayed in the same place, mentally, emotionally, still replaying what we had so faithfully. I told myself I was healing, just taking time, but I was really living inside. Rewind, every day looked different, but I stayed the same, holding on to your name like a flame. And I didn't notice how far I fell behind, because I was still living in another timeline. I thought I was waiting for you, but I was stuck in you. I didn't move forward, I just learned to stay still, while everything changed at will. I didn't move forward, and I feel it now, in everything somehow. And maybe that's why it still follows me through. I didn't move forward without you. I remember avoiding new places, new faces, new sound, because everything new felt like losing ground, like moving on and erasing what we used to be. And I wasn't ready for that reality, so I built a quiet world inside my mind, where nothing changed and time stayed kind. But that world became heavier than I knew, because it only existed with you. I wasn't moving on, I was avoiding the truth. I didn't move forward, and I paid for that choice in the silence of my own voice. I didn't move forward, and I understand now what I couldn't back then somehow. And maybe that's why it still breaks through. I didn't move forward from you. I thought staying in the past meant I was loyal, but I was just afraid of what came next. Now I see how life didn't pause with me, it kept building futures I refused to see. And I'm still catching up to where I should be now, learning how to live without you somehow. Still, I don't hate myself for staying behind, I just wish I knew sooner what I'd find, that holding on so tightly can quietly undo the person you're becoming too. I didn't move forward, and I finally understand you can't hold time in your hands. I didn't move forward, but I'm starting to try, even if it hurts to say goodbye. And after all this time, one truth comes through. I didn't move forward, but I'm moving now too. I stayed in yesterday for too long, but today I finally noticed it wasn't waiting for me anymore. They told me I would start again, like it was something simple, like I could just reset a life that still has your fingerprints on it. I tried to begin in small ways, new mornings, different light, but everything I touched still carried the shape of our old nights. walked in new directions, but they led me back to you. Like every road I tried to follow, forgot what it was supposed to do. I changed the rooms, I changed the faces, I even changed my tone, but nothing ever really changed what I feel alone. And I stopped calling it healing, because healing felt like light. I wasn't moving forward, I was just learning how to try. And every time I almost restart, something pulls me back inside. Not you, but what you left in me that never said goodbye. I didn't start again, I just learned how to pretend that the ending wasn't louder than everything I defend. I didn't start again, I just rearranged the pain, like changing where it sits could change its name. I didn't start again, and I don't know if I can, because every version of tomorrow still holds your hand. I met new people slowly, but I kept them at a distance, like I was scared they'd notice I was missing in existence. I laughed at different moments, but it never felt like mine. Like joy was something borrowed from another life and time. I even tried forgetting like it was something I could learn, but forgetting isn't the door you close. It's something that still burns. And I realized I wasn't broken, I was just not done with the story that kept echoing long after it was gone. Because starting again means leaving what still lives under your skin. And I never found the strength to begin. I didn't start again, I just learned how to pretend that the ending wasn't louder than everything I defend. I didn't start again, I just rearranged the pain, like changing where it sits could change its name. I didn't start again, and I don't know if I can, because every version of tomorrow still holds your hand. Maybe people don't restart at all, maybe they just continue broken, carrying the same old ending inside every new motion. And I kept waiting for a moment when it would finally feel like new, but nothing ever started over, because nothing ever left you. And I think that's what I've been hiding. Not that I lost love that day, but that I never learned to let it fade away. I didn't start again, I just stayed in what remained, a life that learned your absence like a permanent name. I didn't start again, and now I finally see you're not the reason I'm stuck, I am the memory. I didn't start again, and maybe that's the truth. I never left the ending, I just lived inside you. They told me I would start again, but I never really did. I just kept living forward with everything I missed. I don't miss everything, just the part that used to feel like us. I still go back there without meaning to, not in places, just in you, in the way things used to feel so simple and close, before we started becoming what we didn't know. I remember how easy it was to just exist. No overthinking, no emotional twist, just presence, just calm, just something that felt like home in your arms. And now it feels like I'm holding something that's gone, but I keep holding on to then for too long. I wasn't loving you now, I was loving who you were. I held on to them like you were still alive, like time hadn't decided to divide. I held on to them, and it held me too, in everything I do. And maybe that's why it still follows me through. I held on to them instead of you. I remember replaying moments that can't come back, trying to rebuild feelings that were already cracked, like memory could replace what reality lost, without understanding what it cost. And I kept comparing now to something that's gone, measuring every silence against a song that only existed in a different time, where everything broke and still felt fine. I thought I was remembering, but I was refusing to move forward. I held on to them until it started to fade, but I still stayed in that place. I held on to them, and I see it now, it's not there somehow. And maybe that's why it still lingers in me too. I held on to them and lost you. I didn't realize I was grieving something I refused to let go of. Not you. Just then. Now I understand, memories don't stay still, they distort. They become softer than they were before. And I still carry that version of us inside my mind, like a place I can visit but never rewind. Still I don't hate that I stayed in that emotional space. It taught me how fragile time and love can taste. And maybe that's the truth I finally see through. I held on to them because I didn't know how to lose you. To them, and it held me back from everything I lacked. I held on to them, and I finally released what I couldn't keep. And after all this time, one truth comes through. I held on to them, and now I let it too. Then it's still beautiful, but it doesn't live here anymore. I thought if I replayed it enough, I might finally understand where it went wrong. But all I found was the same ending on repeat. I keep going back to that moment, like it owes me something new. Same words, same fade in silence, same version of me and you. I press play on every memory, like it's a song I can fix, but it always breaks in the same place. No matter how I remix, I watch your face turn colder slowly, like I didn't see it before. And every time I swear I notice a detail I ignored, but but it's never different, never kinder, it never changes tone. It just reminds me what I lost by replaying it alone. And I know I should stop rewinding, but I can't let the moment die, because in the silence after it, I have to say goodbye. I replayed it often, like I could rewrite the pain, but every time it ends the same. You don't stay. I replayed it often until it started to hurt like truth. I kept hoping for a different ending, but it was always you. I replayed it often, now I know what it means. Some memories don't change, no matter what you scream. I memorized the pauses between us, like they were trying to speak, but I was too busy holding on to what we used to be. I studied every small goodbye, hidden in your tone, how you were already leaving while still standing close. I thought maybe I missed a signal, something I could've said, but replaying it just proves some things were already made. And now I sit with this silence like it's part of my name, because watching it again and again never dulls the shame. I used to think repetition would turn pain into control, but all it did was teach me how deeply you let go. I replayed it often, like I could rewrite the pain, but every time it ends the same. You don't stay. I replayed it often until it started to hurt like truth. I kept hoping for a different ending, but it was always you. I replayed it often, now I know what it means. Some memories don't change, no matter what you scream. Maybe I wasn't trying to fix it, maybe I just wanted to feel something softer than the ending, something less real. But the truth in every replay is sharper every time. You were already gone before I knew I was still calling you mine. And I think that's what hurts the most, not that you left that day, but that I kept pressing play long after you walked away. I replayed it often until it became who I am, living in the moment you stopped, while I still can. I replayed it often, like love could be rerun, but every time I watched it, I was the only one. I replayed it often, and now I finally see you weren't stuck in my memory. I was stuck in me. I thought if I replayed it enough, it would hurt less each time, but it never did. It just learned my mind. I didn't leave loudly, I just disappeared in place, like I was still there, but no longer in your space. You walked ahead like it was nothing, like endings don't leave marks, but I felt the world get heavier the second we fell apart. I didn't ask you to stay longer, didn't reach for your hand. I just stood where we used to be, trying to understand. think that's when it happened. Not the goodbye, not the break, but the moment I stopped following and started to fade. I stayed behind quietly, like silence was my role. Watching you become a distance I could no longer hold. And no one saw me breaking, because I didn't make a sound. I just learned how to be missing while still standing on the ground. I stay behind quietly, where you stop turning back, in a place between forever and what we lost in fact. I stay behind quietly, like I was never meant to go. And now I live in the shadow of a love I couldn't show. I stay behind quietly, and I never called your name, but everything I became after you still feels the same. I watched you turn into a future I wasn't part of anymore, like I was just a memory you closed behind a door. I tried to act like I was fine, like distance made me strong, but strength is just a word you use when everything feels wrong. I filled my days with motion, but nothing really moved, because every step I took alone still led me back to you. And I stopped expecting answers, because answers never came, just echoes of the version of us I couldn't name. And maybe I didn't lose you, maybe I just let you go without ever making noise, so no one would know. I stay behind quietly, where you stop turning back, in a place between forever and what we lost in fact. I stay behind quietly, like I was never meant to go. And now I live in the shadow of a love I couldn't show. I stay behind quietly, and I never called your name, but everything I became after you still feels the same. If I'd spoken louder, maybe something would have changed, but I think I chose the silence because it hurt less that way. And now I understand the ending wasn't one moment, one scene. It was me staying behind while you kept moving free. And the cruelest part of loving isn't when it falls apart, it's staying where it ended with a quiet heart. I stayed behind quietly, and I learned how to remain inside a life that kept on moving while I stayed in the pain. I stayed behind quietly, and I never said goodbye, but I said it every moment I let you pass me by. I stayed behind quietly, and now I finally see you didn't leave me alone. I left me, I didn't leave loudly, I just disappeared in place. And I stayed behind quietly, and a love I couldn't chase. I was never fully gone, but I was never really there, just caught in the space between what we used to be. You move like a decision already made, quiet but certain in direction. I stay like a question you stop trying to answer, We didn't crash, we didn't break, we just lost alignment slowly, like two signals fading on the same frequency. I could feel you becoming distant before you ever said a word, but I stayed in the middle of it like it was still secure. And every time I almost chose a side, I lost the strength to decide. So I became the space between us that never felt alive. And I know that's not where love survives. It needs direction, needs truth. But I was just suspended between me and you. I stayed in between, not leaving, not arriving, just drifting in a place where nothing feels defined. And I stayed in between, where your silence meant my name, and every step I didn't take still felt the same. I stayed in between, and I learned what it means to exist without belonging to anything. You started living in the future, I kept living in delay. You were already becoming gone while I was still halfway. I held on to conversations that had already changed the tone, like I could rebuild connection out of something already known. But even hope gets tired when it's not met halfway. And I started feeling empty in a slower kind of way. And I stopped calling it confusion because I knew what it was. I just didn't want to choose what I already lost, because staying in between feels safer than the fall. But safety's just another way of losing it all. I stayed in between, not leaving, not arriving, just drifting in a place where nothing feels defined. And I stayed in between, where your silence meant my name, and every step I didn't take still felt the same. I stayed in between, and I learned what it means to exist without belonging to anything. And maybe I was never stuck, maybe I was just afraid to confirm what was already quietly decayed. Because in between is where I hid from endings and from starts, a place where nothing fully dies but nothing stays in parts. And now I see the truth of it, I wasn't caught, I chose to live in the softest ending no one ever knows. I stayed in between, and it slowly became me, a life that never fully left what it couldn't be. I stayed in between, and I finally understand you don't have to walk away to lose what you had. I stayed in between, and now there's nothing to defend, because I didn't begin again, and I didn't end. I was never fully gone, but I was never really there, just staying in between and calling it care. It only lasted a second, but I've been there ever since. Some moments don't pass, they just change where you live. I remember how the air got quieter right before you looked away, like something inside the room between us couldn't find a way to stay. You didn't say it like a goodbye, but I heard it anyway. In the space between your breathing and the words you didn't say. I should've blinked, I should've moved, I should've broken the spell, but I stayed inside that moment like it was all there was left. And even when everything kept going, I didn't follow time. I stayed inside that instant where you stopped being mine. Now I live in the echo of it, where nothing else feels real, just that one suspended second. I still can't heal. I stayed in that moment long after it disappeared, like my life forgot to move on from what I still hear. I stayed in that moment where you let me go in silence, and I've been there ever since. Inside that quiet violence, I stayed in that moment, and I never came back through, because somewhere in that second I lost you. People ask me how I'm doing, I say fine like it's true, but I'm still standing where you left me, in the version of you I tried to build new mornings, but they always felt the same. Like everything just repeats itself but never calls your name. I learned how to exist around it like a shadow I don't chase, but I never really left that second, I never left that place. And I think that's why healing never quite arrives, because I didn't move forward, I just learned to survive. And every time I almost leave it, it pulls me back inside that moment where you changed everything without saying why. I stayed in that moment long after it disappeared, like my life forgot to move on from what I still hear. I stayed in that moment where you let me go in silence, and I've been there ever since. Inside that quiet violence, I stayed in that moment, and I never came back through, because somewhere in that second I lost you. Maybe that's what heartbreak is, not the ending, not the fall, but a single frozen second that contains it all. And I keep replaying the feeling like it's trying to set me free, but every time I return to it, it stays part of me. If I ever leave that moment, I don't know who I'll be, because I've lived inside it longer than it lived in me. I stayed in that moment and it never let me go. It became the only place I know. I stayed in that moment where everything fell apart, and I'm still standing there in the dark. I stayed in that moment, and now I understand. Some goodbyes don't end, they just expand. It only lasted a second, but I've been there ever since. And I'm not sure if I left it, or it never left me since. You didn't stay, but something of you did. Not in a way I could touch, only in the way I still feel it. You left without making a sound loud enough to name, just a slow disappearing I couldn't frame. No final line, no breaking point, just space where you used to remain. And I filled it with pretending, like silence could be replaced. But every room I walked into still had your empty shape. I learned how to talk around it, how to smile through the lack. But absence isn't something you escape, it just follows you back. And I kept thinking time would soften what it never even touched. because what you really left behind was too much. Now I don't miss you like a memory, I miss you like a state of being, like I was someone different before you stopped being here with me. I stayed in your absence like it was a place I knew. Every day I wake up inside it, still reaching for you. I stayed in your absence and it learned my name by heart. It became the only thing that never falls apart. I stayed in your absence and it never let me go, 'cause what you left behind kept me whole in what I know. I try to build new meanings out of everything you erased, but even new beginnings still carried your trace. I spoke to other people like it could replace your tone, but every conversation faded into being alone. I stopped expecting closure because nothing really closed, it just became a quieter version of what I already know. And I started calling and living, but it felt more like delay, like I was still waiting for a moment that never came that day. 'Cause absence isn't empty, it's something that remains, and I've been learning how to breathe inside your name. I stayed in your absence like it was a place I knew. Every day I wake up inside it, still reaching for you. I stayed in your absence and it learned my name by heart. It became the only thing that never falls apart. I stayed in your absence and it never let me go, 'cause what you left behind kept me whole in what I know. And maybe that's the truth I avoid. You're not here, but you're still real. Not in what I can remember, but in what I still feel. Because absence isn't silence, it's a language of its own. And I've been fluent in missing you longer than I've been alone. If I ever leave this place you made, I wonder who I'll be, because I've built my whole existence around what you took from me. I stayed in your absence and it became my home, a quiet kind of forever I never meant to own. I stayed in your absence and I stopped trying to escape, because even when you're not here, you never really break. I stayed in your absence and now I understand. Some people don't leave your life, they leave your land. You didn't stay, but something of you did. And I stayed in your absence long after you quit. Didn't end loudly, it just stopped feeling alive. And I never learned how to leave something that didn't say goodbye. It ended in a quiet way that most people don't notice. No broken words, no final scene, just distance becoming honest. You didn't close the door on me, you just stopped holding it open. And I stayed in that small moment where everything felt broken. I thought it might restart itself if I waited long enough. But endings don't reverse just because you still love. So I stayed in the exact place where we used to exist, not realizing staying behind was part of what this is. And I told myself it's temporary, like I could wait it out. But some endings don't pass through, they just stay around. I stayed where it ended, like it was still my home. Even when everything was gone, I couldn't let it go. I stayed where it ended, and I learned the hardest truth, that the hardest place to leave is you. I stayed where it ended, and time just walked past me while I was frozen in the moment and stopped being. People moved on around me like it was natural to do, but I was still inside the second where I lost you. I built new days on top of it, but they never felt real. Like every smile was layered over what I still feel. I tried to name it healing, but healing didn't arrive. Just me learning how to function without feeling alive. And I kept expecting closure, like it was something I'd receive, but closure never came to me because I didn't leave. Because staying where it ended isn't staying at all. It's just not knowing how to move when everything falls. I stayed where it ended, like it was still my home. Even when everything was gone, I couldn't let it go. I stayed where it ended, and I learned the hardest truth, that the hardest place to leave is you. I stayed where it ended, and time just walked past me while I was frozen in the moment and stopped being. And maybe I was waiting for it to become something new, but endings don't evolve, they just remove you. And I think that's why I'm still here, not because you remain, but because I never stepped beyond the moment everything changed. So I built my life around a place that doesn't exist, a memory that never moved on because I never did. I stayed where it ended, and I still feel the air of everything we were that isn't there. I stayed where it ended, and now I finally see you didn't trap me in the ending. I stayed willingly. I stayed where it ended, and I became the proof that sometimes love doesn't leave, you just do. Didn't end loudly, it just stopped feeling alive. And I stayed where it ended, long after goodbye. I knew it wasn't good for me, but I stayed anyway. There was a point where it started to feel heavy to stay, not because of one moment or something you said that day, just the weight of everything building quietly inside, while I kept telling myself it would be fine. I stayed through the silence, through the emotional distance, through conversations that lost their resistance. And every time it hurt, I made it smaller in my head, calling it love instead. I thought endurance meant devotion, but it was something else entirely. I stayed where it hurt, long after I should have left. Confusing love was neglect. I stayed where it hurt, and I learned it too late. Some pain becomes a place, and maybe that's why it still follows me through. I stayed where it hurt for you. I remember the nights feeling harder than they should, still showing up emotionally when I barely could, giving pieces of myself that weren't coming back, trying to fill what was missing and what we lacked. And I think that's what breaks me when I look back now, how I kept choosing suffering somehow, believing that staying proved I cared, when really I was just trapped there. I didn't recognize it as pain, because I called it love. I stayed where it hurt and called it loyalty, while losing myself quietly. I stayed where it hurt, and I see it now more clearly somehow. And maybe that's why it echoes inside me too. I stayed where it hurt instead of leaving you. The hardest part isn't leaving someone who hurts you, it's realizing you stayed long enough to forget it hurt. Now I understand love isn't supposed to feel like survival. It's not supposed to break you in intervals. But I still don't hate the version of me that stayed in that place. They were just trying to save face. Still, I'm learning slowly what I should have known, that love shouldn't feel like being alone. Maybe that's the truth I carry through and through. I stayed where it hurt because I thought I had to. I stayed where it hurt, and I finally see it now, the way I kept saying somehow. I stayed where it hurt, and I'm walking away from what I used to call okay. And after all this time, one truth breaks through. I stayed where it hurt, but I won't stay there too. I thought I was holding on to love, but I was just holding on to pain that learned my name. I wasn't expecting anything, but I still stayed. I waited without hope for something to change, knowing it probably wouldn't, but waiting the same. I stopped believing you'd come back through. I waited without hope, still holding on to you. I checked my phone list, but still looked around for signs of your voice in every sound. I told myself often that it was done, but part of me lingered when the day was gone. I wasn't dreaming of what we'd be, I was just living with what used to be. I knew the answer before it came, but knowing and leaving are without hope, and I feel it now. Holding on to silence, I don't know how. I wasn't expecting a message from you. I waited without hope, because that's what I knew. The days kept moving, the seasons changed, but part of my heart stayed in the same place. Not because I thought you'd return again, but because letting go felt harder than then. I carried the absence like something familiar, even when I knew it wasn't getting clearer. I thought time alone would pull me through, but time just taught me how to live without you. Maybe hope had already left, and all that remained was habit and memory calling your name. And maybe that's why it lasted so long. I wasn't waiting for you, I was waiting to move on. I waited without hope, and it's clear to me now. I was standing still, I don't know how to leave behind something that felt so true. I waited without hope, long after you. I wasn't expecting anything, but I still stay for a while. Anyway, it's not every day, but sometimes I'm still there, where everything ended, like it never learned how to move. I wake up and I'm fine, until I remember I'm not. And suddenly I'm back in that moment I forgot I got caught. It's strange how time can pass, but some places don't. They stay the same inside you, even when you don't. I could be laughing in a room, talking like I've moved on, but then I blink and I'm back again, where everything went wrong and no one sees it happen. No warning, no sound, I just disappear for a second without leaving the ground. And I don't choose it, that just pulls me in, like memory has a gravity I can't win. I'm still there sometimes, in the space you left behind, where silence feels like yesterday, and I lose track of time. I'm still there sometimes, even when I say I'm okay. I fall back into the version of us that never went away. I'm still there sometimes, and I don't know how to leave, because some parts of my life never left me. I've built new conversations on top of older pain, like stacking new beginnings over something I can't change. I smile in different places with people I don't know well, but sometimes I slip away to somewhere I can't tell. It's not that I wanna go back, it's that I never left all the way. Some pieces of that moment still choose to stay, and I wonder if you feel it, or if I'm alone in this loop, living in the memory that still has you. Because healing isn't linear, it's It's more like fading light, and some shadows never disappear, they just hide. I'm still there sometimes, in the space you left behind, where silence feels like yesterday, and I lose track of time. I'm still there sometimes, even when I say I'm okay. I fall back into the version of us that never went away. I'm still there sometimes, and I don't know how to leave, because some parts of my life never left me. And maybe that's what moving on is, not forgetting, just delay, learning how to live around what never goes away. Because I don't go back on purpose, I just drift there without choice, like memory has its own language and I lost my voice. And I think that's what I fear most, not you, not what we were, but how easily I return to who I was with you there. I'm still there sometimes, and it feels so real, like nothing ever ended, like nothing ever healed. I'm still there sometimes, and I carry both lives, the one that moved forward and the one that never died. I'm still there sometimes, and maybe I always will, because some parts of the past stay still. It's not every day, but sometimes I'm still there. And for a moment I forget I'm anywhere else. I didn't feel it move, but everything changed anyway. Time didn't stop when I did, it just kept walking quietly. Days turned into something I couldn't name, while I stayed inside the same frame. People around me kept growing past, building futures I couldn't grasp. And I thought I was healing by standing still, but I was only watching life move downhill. Not falling, just not going, while everything else kept growing. I thought I was taking my time, but time wasn't waiting for me. Time passed around me like I wasn't there, like I became empty air. Time passed around me, and I stayed the same, watching everything change its name. And maybe that's why it still follows me through. Time passed around me while I held on to you. I remember moments I delayed for no real reason, thinking later would feel less like leaving, but later became far away. And I was still here the same day, and I started noticing in quiet ways how life doesn't pause for emotional haze. It just keeps building without looking back, leaving me behind on the track. I thought I was surviving the way, but I was losing the race. Time passed around me, and I didn't notice at first, until I felt the silent hurt. Time passed around me, and I finally saw what I couldn't ignore anymore. Or maybe that's why it echoes in me too. and I passed too. I used to think I was standing still, but I was actually being left behind. Now I understand time doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for healing or decision. It just moves forward without sound, leaving echoes all around. Still, I don't blame myself for staying in place. I just didn't know how to face that life moves even when you're not ready to go. And that's the truth, I now know. Time passed around me, and I finally understand. I couldn't hold it in my head. Time passed around me, and I'm learning to move, even with nothing to prove. And after all this time, one truth comes through. Time passed around me, and so did I too. I thought I was waiting for life to continue, but it never stopped. I just did.